So we love traveling and exploring the trails through the woods of Germany. But a tiny poppy seed sized tick bite changed everything about 6 weeks ago. One tiny tick. That's it. That's all it takes to change your life. Now, we always thought Lyme disease was something that just happened to other people until it happened to us. So today, we're sharing our experience with Lyme disease, a disease that can cause debilitating fatigue, severe pain, neurological disorders, and if left untreated, long-term health complications. So every year, an estimated 40 to 80,000 people in Germany contract Lyme disease. Now, throughout Europe and across North America, that number increases to about 600,000 per year. Now, Germany has one of the highest infection rates of Lyme disease in all of Europe. So before we get too far into this, I just want to be very clear that I'm sharing our experience with Lyme disease. I am not giving medical advice. If you suspect you might have Lyme disease, or if you have any strange symptoms, you need to seek advice from medical professionals as soon as possible. So if you followed our channel for a while, you may know that one of our absolute favorite things about living in Germany is the outstanding trail network throughout the country. I mean, you can walk, hike, run, or bike from town to town, city to city, through forests, across fields, over vineyards and mountains throughout the entire country. It is truly one of the, in our opinion, one of the nicest things about living in Germany. But when the months get warmer, summertime rolls around, these beautiful trails hide a danger that many people, including us, don't take seriously enough. So about 6 weeks ago, Betty and I went for one of our regular walks on these trails out here beside our house, something we normally do several times a week when we're not out traveling somewhere. And later that evening, Betty was taking a bath and she noticed some very tiny ticks around her ankles. Now, these things are so small. Now, back home in Arkansas, we call these seed ticks, S-E-E-D. Now, I don't know if that's a real term or if it's just something that us country folk call them, but anyway, we would call them seed ticks. So anyway, so Betty tucked them off and didn't really think much about it. Now, when we were children, both of us, had ticks several times growing up, and you'd always, get rid of them or whatever and just go on about your life. So we never gave it much thought until a couple weeks ago. Now, about a month later, after Betty had found the ticks, we were in Wiesbaden filming a travel video, and all of a sudden, I think the second day, Betty was like, wow, I'm really tired. Now, at first, I didn't really think much about it. I don't know if she really thought much about it because, filming these travel videos, it's pretty hard work. I mean, I know it might seem very glamorous, and it is a lot of fun. There's no doubt about that. But it's a lot of hard work, and it is very physically demanding. I mean, it's not unusual at all for us to walk 10 miles or more per day when we're out filming a travel video. So getting tired is something that happens all the time. But this was not like normal tired. This was like, it finally got to the point and Betty was like, Lee, I just can't go on anymore. I have to sit down. And then it was like, Lee, I have to go back to the hotel and lay down. I'm just exhausted. I can't go on any further. So wow, that was kind of alarming. So we went back to the hotel. She got rested up, and then later that evening, I noticed on the side of her torso, she had what looked like a big bruise. So I asked her. I said, "Hey, where'd you get this bruise from?" And she had no idea. She didn't remember anything that would have caused her getting a bruise. So that was pretty strange, right? So, she recovered, she rallied, she pushed on, and we managed to get all the filming we need to do. I think I went out by myself and maybe did some filming at one point. But we got everything done. We made the video, and then we wound up going home a day early. So we left Wiesbaden a day earlier than we had originally planned. Now, after we got home, the fatigue, it would come and go. Some days she felt completely normal. I mean, she would go exercise and things like that. And then some days she would be just really exhausted and tired and just could hardly get out of bed. And then she developed headaches that would come and go. You know, one day she'd have a headache, the next day it'd be gone, and she'd feel good. So it was just kind of like all these weird things going on at the same time. And then the bruise never went away. So like 10 days later, she still had this bruise, but it had changed. It didn't look like a bruise anymore. It kind of looked like just a big red, angry rash. It was raised and it was warm to the touch and also quite itchy. So that seemed really weird. All right, so at this point, Betty knew that something wasn't quite right. She knew something wasn't right with her. So what do you do in 2026 when you have health issue concerns, health questions, and before you go to the doctor? Yeah, that's right. You ask artificial intelligence, right? So Betty got online and she put her symptoms into an AI tool and asked it what it thought was going on with her. So at this point, you know, this was about 5 weeks after the tick incident. And so at this point, I think both of us had pretty much forgotten about the ticks. So, but the first thing that the AI tool asked Betty was, have you been bitten by a tick recently? Betty thought about it and she was like, yes, I was bitten by a tick about 5 weeks ago. So she put that into the AI tool. And then it asked her about her rash. It said, does your rash have a bullseye marking? And she said, no, it didn't. It didn't have any sort of bullseye marking. And then the AI tool came back immediately and said, okay, you have definite signs and symptoms of Lyme disease. Now, and it went on to say that normally a rash associated with Lyme disease, now it doesn't have to be anywhere near the tick bite, and hers wasn't. It wasn't near the tick bite. But normally the rash looks like a bullseye, but hers did not. But it still said, the AI tool said that even though your rash doesn't look like a bullseye, it still said her signs and symptoms, she had signs and symptoms of Lyme disease, and it recommended that she be seen by her house artist as soon as possible. Now, Betty told me, she said, hey, I think I might have Lyme disease, and this is where I feel really bad. I looked at her and said, you don't have Lyme disease. I said, come on, that tick incident, that was like 5 weeks ago. Your rash isn't anywhere near the tick bite. I don't think you have Lyme disease. We've both been bitten by ticks before. We've never gotten sick. So then she read what the AI tool said. And I was like, So that sounded, a little compelling. So then I start researching it myself. And the more I read, I'm like, you know what? Maybe you do have Lyme disease. This is Friday afternoon. And our house artist, their practice had already closed for the weekend. So Betty went online, went to their website, and you could schedule appointments online and through their website. So she tried to schedule an appointment. The earliest available appointment online was in 6 weeks. Now, everything we read, everything we kept reading, every website I looked at said that you need to identify Lyme disease and start treatment as early as possible, because the later you wait, the worse the outcome can be. Now, if this had been during the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, we would have just waited, and then the next morning we would have gone to the doctor's office and asked them what they recommended. But this is Friday. We didn't want to wait until Monday, and then not knowing on Monday when she'd be able to get an appointment. And so everything we read, all the websites suggested that we go to the emergency room. All right, so that's exactly what we did. We loaded up and we went to the emergency room. So at this point, I'm starting to get I'm starting to get pretty worried. Now, I'm still not convinced that it's Lyme disease, but I definitely think, I'm definitely thinking that the risk is high enough that we need to go and get it checked out. So we go to the emergency room Friday evening, and luckily they weren't too busy, so we didn't have to wait too long. And then she got seen by a doctor. She got examined by the emergency room doctor. He looked at her. She told him that she suspected it might be Lyme disease. He looked at her, he told her, I don't think it's Lyme disease. He said, normally the rash with Lyme disease presents like a bullseye. Hers did not look like a bullseye. So he just flat out said, I don't think it's Lyme disease. But to his credit, he did order a couple of blood tests. He checked her, I think her normal blood panel, and he also did a blood test to check for Lyme disease. And he also started her on antibiotic treatment to treat for Lyme disease just in case. So, kudos to him. Even though he didn't really think it was Lyme disease, he did everything he needed to do to check for it and to start for treatment. So the next day, on Saturday, Betty got the call and she was positive. She had Lyme disease. All right, so for those of you who may be unfamiliar with Lyme disease, it's a bacterial infection spread by, you guessed it, the bite of infected ticks. Now, when identified and treated early, it pretty much, is guaranteed you're going to get over it and have favorable outcomes. But if treatment is delayed, it could have very bad long-term results. Now, so this experience has really caused me to think about something. Artificial intelligence it's affecting all of our lives, right? Whether you realize it or not, it's almost guaranteed it's affecting your life in some way. And so I'm never saying that artificial intelligence should replace trained healthcare professionals, but in this situation, the AI tool recognized almost immediately that there was a strong possibility of Lyme disease. Matter of fact, that's like the main thing that the AI tool recognized, that this definitely sounds like Lyme disease. Now, when we went to the emergency room, the trained medical doctor, he did not think it was Lyme disease. Now, to his credit, he did do the testing and he did start treatment for it. But honestly, if Betty had not have said, I think it might be Lyme disease, I'm not sure if he would have. All right, so why did Betty get ticks and I didn't when we were walking at the very same place at the very same time? Well, the truth is we don't know, and I don't know if anyone will ever know for sure. We were wearing pretty much the same type clothes. I think short sleeve shirts and shorts, hiking shoes. But a difference is I had long military style socks that came up almost all the way to my knees. Those are what I wear pretty much every time I go hiking or go for a long walk. And Betty's socks just kind of barely covered her ankles. So I don't know if that's the difference or not, but that could have been the difference that allowed the ticks to get in around her ankle, and they didn't on me. All right, so as I'm filming this, Betty has been on antibiotics for about 5 days, and she's slowly starting to feel a little bit better. Sometimes she feels pretty good, but she still has a lot of fatigue, and she's still having the headaches every now and then, but she is slowly starting to feel better, it seems like. So we're optimistic about her outcome, about her improvement, but we also know that Lyme disease can be very unpredictable. So right now we're just very happy that it was identified when it was, that we're happy we went to the emergency room last week, and we're also very happy she started treatment. So hopefully she gets better. So our advice to you is don't let our experience prevent you from enjoying Germany's phenomenal trail network. We certainly won't, but just be smart about it, right? So, wear clothing that covers as much skin as practical, especially if you're going to be walking through thick areas of thick vegetation. After walking, make sure you check yourself for ticks. If you have children, make sure you check your kids and also check your pets. And just remember that these ticks can be extremely small. Like the ones that bit Betty, they were about the size of a poppy seed. So they were really small. And a lot of times people will get bit by ticks and they won't even know it. I mean, the ticks will be so small, they'll get knocked off or whatever, and people don't even recognize they've had a tick bite. So just be careful when you look for them because they can be really, really small. So if you've been bitten by a tick, keep an eye out for symptoms over the next following days and weeks. Now, these can include the rash, like I mentioned, which oftentimes presents like a bullseye, but not always, because Betty's still has never looked like a bullseye, and it may not be anywhere really close to the bite location. I mean, other symptoms are unusual fatigue, fever, chills, muscle pain, joint stiffness, neck stiffness, headaches, and swollen lymph nodes. But symptoms can and definitely will vary from person to person. So just be on the lookout for those type of symptoms. And by all means, just don't assume that it's not Lyme disease just because you don't have the classic bullseye rash mark. All right, so what does this mean for our channel and our publishing schedule? Well, right now, we're not sure because even though you may not see her a lot, Betty actually does most of the work for our channel. So she does most of the filming, most of the editing, and putting together the video. Like, I'm just the pretty face in front of the camera that you see, that's talking to you. So it kind of depends on how she feels. Hopefully she's getting better and we can resume traveling and resume making videos. But you know, if she's too tired, too fatigued, then we may not be able to. And it may be a while before we're back on a regular schedule. So we hope sharing our story helps you understand the risks, recognize the warning signs, and maybe even help prevent this from happening to you altogether. All right, so thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, if you found this video helpful, consider subscribing to our channel. Give us a like and leave us a note in the comments about if you have any experience with Lyme disease. So we encourage you to enjoy Germany's great outdoors, the great outdoors wherever you are. Just be smart about it. You know, take care of yourselves, take care of your family, take care of your loved ones. Watch out for those pesky little ticks, right? So just be smart about it and take care of yourselves, and we'll see you in the next one.